That is not the app I wanted. I wanted this app.
But that was my first official short story. I think I did pretty
And
good,
he did
actually.
so
You've never
well.
written
I
shorts
think
before? I didn't know that.
never. No, I don't write
I'm
shorts.
surprised, actually. I would
Yeah,
have thought you'd have
I
been all
don't
over
know.
that.
I don't write. I wrote my first official, well, published short. How's that? I've written shorts, but
Okay.
not really that well.
I
First,
threatened to, but I don't have. I don't know. Maybe I'll get to it.
and I'm pretty happy
Uh-oh.
with it. What's our topic?
Here we go.
I don't know. Are we ready? I'm gonna let
Yes.
it
Spin it.
actually be
can't
able to
see it.
see its thing. There we
Yeah, you
go.
got to let it
I can't.
normalize.
I can't see that.
Doot.
Bingo!
Did,
I win.
did Ray get his signature?
Wow, that was really. Oh.
What's our topic?
Taboo topics.
Nice. We're doing taboo.
Formerly episode 6, entitled Mental Health and Taboo Topics.
We have done taboo. All right.
Remember this one? Like,
That's right.
wow.
So we'll do the whole intro. Welcome to Authors and Chains. This week, our episode is Taboo Topics. Things you don't want to write about.
No, things you do want to write about, except they'll flip people out and they'll.
I know, right?
I mean,
that's well. Come on, we do it. We all write. Sooner or later, you're going to write those topics. I mean, God, we've all covered them. I mean, I tore out a whole piece of Fallen that was like that. Was an entire set of taboo topics. I mean, we cover what do we cover? We cover rape. We cover murder. We cover everything.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
Hold on a second. Let's for a second here. The last time that we did this, I was not here.
Yeah, we did mental health.
And there was another cast member or two, and the topic of taboo topics was sort of derailed, I guess. My understanding is because this person did not really want to talk about the taboo topics, which defeats the purpose and proves the point.
No, wait. Let's be fair. She didn't. It's not that she didn't want to talk about it. It's that this particular cast member wanted to turn it into a bully pulpit for personal likes, dislikes. You name it, whatever the trigger was, sent her into orbit. And then we had to listen to why the perpetual victim mode, that was really bad.
Well, I mean,
so wait. So let me finish there. So this is right here. What I'm doing right this second is the only warning listeners are going to get. This shit about to get real. So, and there might be spoilers for some of our work. There is a possibility. So be warned. If you don't like nasty shit that might, trigger people, there's a good chance you might get triggered. And if you haven't read our stuff yet and you'd really like to, be warned, because we're probably going to talk about some of the things that we have already written about that are taboo.
And to be fair, let's kind of define taboo, okay? Because taboo is a broad subject. There is mental health, there are violence, there is what else do I want to cover as your taboo?
Way out religion? On the edge, sexual content of not very mainstream nature.
Violence. Okay. Yep. You're right.
Non-mainstream sex. Yeah, I like that.
Mental
I think
health,
that
physical infirmities. There's a lot of stuff we write that can be portrayed good or bad, and some will offend some people.
Okay, but so let's expand a little bit. There's a lot. You were right, Ray. Taboo is a gigantic umbrella.
It really
and
is.
Even though I don't remember if we went there, but the typical don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, it doesn't apply here because politics is an issue all by itself. Religion can twist people up pretty hard. People kill you for your perspective on religion. Salman Rushdie is still running because of satanic verses, as I recall. Right. So that is a topic, no matter how you come down on it, that is in many places considered an absolute taboo. You don't go there. So you're right. A qualifying little list. This is when we should have done the little in-screen graphics thing.
A little
can't-
in-screen.
You know, because we don't know what.
NC-17, you know, I mean,
Yeah, we don't have the luxury because we don't know what the topic is until Glacia's
That is
magic
true.
machine tells us.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the point now.
But
And
we
it's
could
true.
probably stick it in maybe in the website or the description for
Well,
the vid later. But
and there's a
useful
lot
to
of
know.
there's a lot of readers. As a writer, sometimes you will pay for what you write by getting flamed or getting yelled at. I know I have actually been flamed for my Trump Tower depiction in Vengeance. When the ship comes down and the T is knocked off of Trump Tower and it's Rump Tower, somebody got upset by that. I thought it was funny. And there's bound to be more than one person who's going to get upset over my depiction of Catholicism in The Fallen. I mean, come on. You're going to
So,
cover
wait a
these
minute.
topics.
So then I will recast my previous statement and say politics is on the list because
Politics is on
we're
the
such a
list, yeah.
bifurcated society right now.
Oh my God.
There's
are
nobody
we?
in
That's
between
right.
anymore. We're over there or we're over there, and there isn't much
No.
crossover.
I'm still moderate. Thank you very much. I will remain moderate.
I'll remind you of that the next time you say something unmoderate that was couched as moderacy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, partner.
That's right.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
moderate.
but so Glacia did when you think of it, I want to ask you this. Let me ask you.
Axe you. Go ahead and axe.
When you heard of the episode without having known anything about it, I wondered about this when you came on board, in fact. And I didn't ask you. I probably should have. Sorry, I didn't ask you. When you heard about taboo subjects, half of the mental health taboo subjects overall title, what came to mind immediately? What was your immediate knee-jerk default vision in your mind's eye? What constituted the taboo subjects we are talking about? What did you see?
Knee jerk, which I definitely do have, was rape and suicide.
Yeah, those are good ones.
But then upon further thought, giving it 10 seconds more, I really had to try and define that for myself. And I think taboo is something that people would rather not talk about. And it has to be taboo for probably the majority of a culture. And the defining characteristics being that society cringes.
That's excellent, because everybody has something that creeps them out. That's not a
Right.
taboo. What you just described is a really great way of putting it. We're talking about societal norms, deviations from it.
Yeah, that's
Well,
And it
exactly
can
it.
be, I mean, what works in Manhattan ain't going to fly in Muscatine, Iowa.
Must be.
So-
So,
Yeah, you're
so
right.
allowing for regional border crossings, even still, I think anybody can, across our society, this civilization, pedophilia is necrophilia. That kind of shit is not. No, don't go there, because that shit is disgusting for pretty much everybody, except
Well,
the folks who it ain't disgusting for. So
Disgusting-
it qualifies as a taboo.
Hey, as
disgusting or aberrant, or something that people would rather pretend doesn't exist.
I mean, as a writer, I tend to feel uncomfortable writing some of these subjects. I do, but how I cover them is very specific. I won't write a rape scene, but I'll write the after effects. I'll write the reactions, or what happens to the person, or how they feel about it.
Same
I
here.
will jump right to that aspect of it. I'm less interested in writing the scene than I am what happens, or how does this affect this person.
Now wait a minute. This is really interesting to me, because I'm precisely the same way. I can tell you all about it after the fact, because it's, and I think a lot of that is gender specific. I have no idea what it feels like for a woman to walk in a parking lot terrified.
True.
I walk in a parking lot at night. I don't give a shit. Come get me, because I'll beat your ass, or I will shoot you with my 45 I have right here.
Right, I get it.
So we don't think of it in those terms. Women, men, most, I would say easily most do. And so it's difficult for men, writers, to go near something like that because we don't have anything like an intrinsic understanding of that
No,
fear.
no, 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 no,
True.
no, 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 no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, no. I challenge you guys to go a little bit deeper into this because
Okay.
you are playing it safe on this.
Oh,
I'm gonna call
Wait a minute.
bullshit.
I wasn't
Wait.
done. I wasn't done yet.
Okay, fine.
And I don't want, and that is why I'm asking, because I'm not playing it safe. Here was what I wanted to ask Ray. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to have to examine this myself. Do we preclude ourselves from writing about those particular taboo topics because of that reason, because we can't write to it with authority? Or is it because it's so gut wrenching and weird and horrible? I don't want anyone to ever think, hey, he's describing a rape scene pretty accurately there. That son of a bitch has probably raped somebody.
and you're right, and that's a good way to look at it. For me, it's both a discomfort a little bit because we always go back and read the stuff we wrote, but more importantly, from a standpoint of experience, it's trying to understand and delve into the person of what happens to them afterwards. Because I think personally, I don't want to glorify rape. I don't want to. I don't want to write a scene and have somebody look at that and go, damn, that's hot. I would rather show the reactions and the consequences, both from the victim standpoint, because it not only makes me feel better, but lets me explore that character.
I am uniformly amazed at when I hear women who are rape victims describe the difficulties that they have after the fact that I would never have considered.
Yeah.
I have a preconceived idea of the horror that they're walking along 25 parallel paths of horror. And it's not that. So
You're right.
The playing it safe part is legitimate because we can't write to that. We don't know what that feels like. But anyway, Glacia, go ahead and challenge us. What were you going to say? To go
Very simple.
deeper, you said.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I think that you're taking the easy way out.
Maybe.
Both of you
Yep.
both of you have written horrendous, murderous,
Yes.
death-loving scenes.
Correct.
Never done that either. Never experienced that either.
You're right.
Never torn the head. Ray never torn the head off of another being and thrown it on the ground. Pretty sure you wrote that. Rob, some of the stuff that you're working on right now, I know you never did any of that, but you write it.
Right.
That's a good point.
And you're right. And I handle it differently. I do that. Probably you're right. I'm taking an easy way out, and maybe I should consider challenging myself more at that.
But now wait a minute. Hold on. Let me give a counter to her counter. That is a great point. And it put me back on my heels for a second, because that is true. That it's almost as though it's an excuse. And I see your point, Glacia, but here's the difference. Under only prison-like circumstances do I stand a chance of being raped. Okay?
And that's true. And I have
now hold on, Ray. Think about
that.
this.
Yeah.
Not only that, but anyone, I challenge anyone, male or female, because it can't be done. Tell me about dying, because none of us can say so. It's conjecture,
right,
all the way. So
well,
I get the pushback, but consider those points.
Well, hold on.
Shouldn't conjecture allow us to write about it though?
Maybe.
But of course it should. But how we feel about it was the question.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I don't write a scene like that gratuitously. So what I'm looking for is that as a character development scene. So though it may be a cop-out, I tend to focus on the character and what happens. Develop that character's pain, betrayal, fear for the story, as opposed to write a scene just for the sake of writing the scene. So yeah, I may skip the act, but I'll delve into the character and their reaction to it and how it affects them.
Glacia, have you ever has anything in Lark's world gotten anywhere near that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So how do you treat it?
Frankly,
Is your view, I mean, is your treatment of it that dramatically different from mine or Ray's?
if we're, well, I have two examples of trigger worthy things, three actually. But one is treated in a fragmented way that is a memory, but one is treated as a, I guess also fragmented, but it's one tiny little portion of a scene as opposed to being like itty bitty little tastes of the entire experience. I have,
Okay.
I do have a rape scene, and it's a, here comes the spoilers, right? You
Love
are
spoilers.
not 100% sure exactly what is going on. I have had people catch it. I have had people go, what is going on here? Because it is a memory. It is a teenager having a memory of experiencing the sight of the rape of a sibling by a stepfather.
Okay.
And
That's an interesting. Yeah.
the person being raped is a boy.
Mhm.
And so that in and of itself kind of confuses things a little bit.
Well, you got your money's worth on Taboo right there, didn't you?
No kidding, right?
Yes. Yes,
Jesus.
absolutely. You can
Okay,
catch
so
it
in
if
the
you
group,
are,
we're the pussies. Got it.
Okay, thank you.
if you pay attention, you absolutely can strongly suspect that that's what is going on. But
Okay.
even if you suspect, there's enough ambiguity there that you can go, maybe not. Maybe he's being abused, but he's just being beaten up, But there is a plea from the brother to the sister that she not watch. A desperate
Wow.
plea.
Okay.
Do you let your reader off the hook and explain it later?
In that
Do you
way,
let
I
them
let the
know that it
reader off.
really was?
No,
Just the
no.
don't watch part.
Just it is clear to someone who's paying attention what's going on, but it is ambiguous enough to those people who they can turn away from that reality if they want to. And it is never explicitly addressed later in the book.
Okay.
Now, conversely, one of the other things that I have is and I think both of you guys have read this because I asked you to beta it for me, this particular scene. I have an extraordinarily explicit suicide scene.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
By from the point of view of the person committing the act, it goes very deep into the mental state of where the person is when they commit the act, and this is an MC. So you very much have gotten to know this person and watched their descent in terms of their desire to want to continue experiencing their life, and also their sort of the certain amount of personal disconnection that you have to have in order to get to that point of being truly suicidal. But you get to watch the entire ritual that this person sort of fabricates to finish convincing themselves that it's going to be okay, and it's staged in a very careful way so that the right person finds the body, and there's physical preparation that happens before the act is committed. Let's make this right, sort of sentiments. And then we do not pan away at the moment that the instrument is a utility knife, and this person basically stabs themselves in the inside of the elbow and drags the thing all the way down, and
Ouch.
it is explicit. The
And
pain, the feeling, not just the pain, but how a blade feels when it runs across your tendons. It is very explicit. I walked the line purposefully.
Right.
and very carefully between realism and glorifying the act.
That is a no pun intended, but that line is as thin as the tip of that.
Yeah,
Stanley
it's a
knife.
razor's edge.
Well,
Absolutely.
The problem is taboo subjects are different for everybody. I mean,
Exactly.
I've had people get upset because some of the characters in some of my books are handicapped in the way some people thought they were glorified in a particular way. Some people, PTSD, another taboo subject that gets covered, may or may not be taboo. I've had people get upset over the oddest things. So taboo is different for every single person.
But
Yeah,
I don't think that just upsetting somebody necessarily makes
No.
something
Makes it
taboo.
taboo.
Again, I
Not
think
for
you
me,
have. I think you have to have the ability to piss off a vast majority of
Correct.
people with a
Yep.
topic, not just one random person who thinks you're an ableist because you made somebody pretty after she could walk again. That's bullshit.
And that was, yeah. But I mean, in a upcoming novel, I've got religions that are not portrayed negatively, but definitely portrayed, maybe poked fun at a little bit. So that could upset people. I've got another book which portrays a prison rape scene, also portrays cross-dressers, transvestite, and homosexuals as the hero. I mean, it's all kinds of. I mean, these are different novel types where some of that may upset people, some of that may be taboo. I don't necessarily consider those things taboo, though.
Most people wouldn't, but we're skirting the
You're
shit
right.
out of this. Let's
We
let's
are.
take it a little bit closer now. When we first got to this topic, it was an umbrella subject. It was the first time we were very early in the AIC continuum.
Wow, yeah, we were
So-
way early. Like, yeah.
Really early. We didn't get a chance to go anywhere near what was supposed to have been kind of a really raw, bare knuckles view of the writer's either perceptions or responsibilities of
Right.
issues that are, some of them, absolutely ghastly, and accepting that it has to be worthy and supportive of the story is a given to me.
Well,
It's not as though
yeah.
we're not doing it for, at least we don't, for gratuitous purposes. It's not shock value. That's not the reason why. We're not talking about that. That is a totally different approach.
Right.
And that it's not really a serious writer anyway. But when you have a cherished MC who your reader has really come to bond with and really, really likes, and then you discover that in that person's computer is 10 gigs of hardcore preteen child sex.
Wow, that would be, yeah, crap, man. Seriously, that would be
Now you got their
Yeah.
attention. That is reality. People that you think you know, and they turn out to be horrible. There's nothing new about that, but the mode and method, pedophilia, is gut wrenching.
that is
You want
character
to
and
hurt
moral,
people who
that's
do
a
shit like
moral-
that.
Yeah, moral assassination of a character. You just, yeah.
Yep.
And
so
any likability for that character is gone. Wow. Yeah.
right, and so when you're doing that, you are killing your character.
Yes. Basically, you're
Right,
killing
and
your character.
that character may be there for the rest of the book, but your readers are almost uniformly going to be so repulsed and disgusted by this person that they will willfully change their expectations of what becomes of them.
God, what
And-
an exercise as a
Yeah.
writer. Think
Right?
about it. Wow. I just followed that through. Man.
We're
Yeah,
exactly
me
we're
too.
we're mirroring reality in so many with
Yeah.
fiction. My ass, we mirror reality.
We do.
There is nothing more terrifying, two things, and uncomfortable for a reader than what you're talking about,
You're
thinking
right.
that you know a character only to find that they're going to do something terrible.
Yes.
And also presenting a character that does something terrible and then tricking the reader into sympathizing with.
Ah, yes.
Right.
I was just thinking about
Reader
that.
manipulation, right?
Not for the act that they committed,
No.
but get the reader to a point where they like the character, or they sympathize with something else that the character has done, and sort of
Yep.
choose to sweep the rest under the rug, which is a fun exercise, and I have
That
one
is,
of those,
I,
and
I'm
it is
I'm
quite
actually
enjoyable.
I was thinking through that. Yeah, can you
Why doesn't that
imagine
surprise me? But
how much you would have to come back from something like that, though? Come on, that is
you are
taboo. That is truly taboo. Yes.
I can tell
really
you
are
that it takes like 300,000 words.
right. Well, you're
Agreed.
taking a hell of a risk from a commercial perspective. Also, and this is something that we probably didn't touch on at all, Ray, before, is that if you're going to go down the path of a clearly horrible social taboo as anything other than a passing crime scene, whereas especially if it involves a main character,
Yes.
you're running a really great big giant monster Jupiter-sized risk of being pigeonholed as a writer who has no how do I put this? You're going to be pulled up out of the normal fiction category, and you will get plunked into the fiction category from whence 50 Shades is springs, places where that
Right.
you cannot shock people hard enough. And that is,
Yeah, that's
if you're not writing specifically for that purpose, remember the I don't remember her name, but our relatively not recent, but we had a fairly uh, hardcore erotic writer that was, I don't remember who it was. She was well oiled that day, but
Hey,
she
we could not name drop there.
we
no,
will
we won't.
not
But
use
that's
names,
different. That's stock and trade.
well, I
If
mean,
it's
and yeah,
raunchy, she or any other erotic writer doesn't give a rat's ass if you cringe by it. That's the
yeah.
reality of hardcore porn.
I mean, and
That's
we
not what we're
all,
talking about at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
This
No,
is
people
a
seek out
deviant.
erotica.
Well, that's the thing.
Yes,
We
and
all
it's not a
ident-
taboo either. That's not. So what
No.
I want to make clear is that is, you can be over here on the safe side, you thought, and a misapplication of something terrible
right.
will vault you into some other genre, whether you like it or not, and there is no coming back. Once you get cast like
Yep.
that, really hard to come back. An erotic
Well,
writer and give a shit.
yeah. I mean, for
But
my stories, I guess you'd call it writing around it. You're right, as we've discussed before. Everybody writes differently when you write your stories. You're building your story. How do you want that story to be? Do you want an action to overshadow the rest? Will it overshadow the rest? As I said, I tend to write the reactions and the effects, the ramifications and the consequences of something like that far more than I actually write the act. And that is just my style.
yeah,
I prefer to leave the act to somebody's imagination as opposed to directly writing and describing it. That's just a personal preference of mine.
Question.
Go ahead.
Why? Is it for fear that somebody will put the book down?
No, not for fear that somebody will put the book down. It tends to be because number one, no matter what you write, somebody's imagination can do far worse. Um, and that's my stories, unless it centers around that act is a consequence and something that develops a character. I don't necessarily need to focus on the act to complete my story. And by not focusing on it, I pull, I pull a Hitchcock.
Mm.
I leave most of it to their imagination, which is always far worse than anything you could possibly describe.
I do too. And it's I don't know whether that's antiseptic out
don't
of
know.
fear or
I don't think it's fear. I mean, it's just a matter of
concern. I don't know how you want to put it.
it's
I
not
disagree.
intrinsic to those particular stories. I'm sure if I came up with a story that scene was intrinsic to, I would write it. But
Okay, now
and
perfect. I'm glad you
maybe,
said
yeah.
that. There's a difference because
yes,
the closest I've ever come to this was not even remotely close to a main character. This is a very tangential character who was witnessed by one of my secondary characters.
Right.
Not that it is any less of an impact, but the whole purpose for going there was to illustrate behaviors in a place that you would expect them. And in this particular case, that act, rape in that case, is absolutely intolerable in a place where it ought to be common everyday act, as grisly and gruesome, as horrible as it is. In that particular place, a prison, it should happen, and nobody pays the slightest bit of attention. People are murdered there every day. They're beaten bloody there every day. They are blackmailed. They're terrorized. They are everything except raped.
Do you?
And that was what I wanted to make clear, was this totally off the rails. Why that in such a place? Why would it be so intolerable? And that was it was a vehicle to why this place is so bizarre and weird.
Well, let's talk. What about offending sensibilities? I mean, that's a good one. And actually, if she remembers this, Glacia, do you remember that story, that guy about the world where it's like a curfew?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my God,
Yes.
man.
Yes.
Oh, talk about offensive. Holy shit.
Enlighten.
That was it was a world in which women were expecting to be raped in the same way that women expect to be hit on. A woman goes to a bar and a woman goes to a woman goes to a bar now in real world, dresses nice because it makes her feel special. She wants to go dance with her friends.
Mm-hmm.
She gets hit on by guys. Fact of life. We complain about it, we bitch about it, we bond with our friends through it. And in this world that this person had created, rape was that.
Holy moly.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
But here's the thing. That idea is actually kind of interesting. But this was
or prescient.
This was rape erotica. So this isn't taboo so much as it's the
feeding a particular fetish.
It is fetishizing violence, which is much different.
The portrayal was adolescent at best. I mean, it was.
It was, but that's beside the point.
The portrayal was what offended me. Yeah.
Okay, there's a difference there.
Well, because it was very much framed as an erotic act, as opposed to something that was disgusting.
Yes.
It actually is kind of an interesting idea, kind of an interesting rabbit hole to go down. A society like that is very strange, and could be something interesting perhaps, and then it would be a taboo topic. But because of the way, as Ray was saying, because of the way it was portrayed, it very much cheapened the idea to the point of a FAP novel about rape.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, there was some. It's just it was bad.
Yeah.
Well, there's no question that there's I mean, rape fantasy exists whether anybody likes it or not.
Yes.
I'm going both ways. Which is even weirder to me, but still it's there. So that to me would qualify as a profoundly taboo subject. I don't care if the culture or subculture exists. The predominant non-subculture, the overculture, most folks, the reasonable prudent person standard is what they call it in the law. That would qualify this as a taboo. But Glacia makes a really disturbing, miserable, shitty observation, which is if you examine this guy's story beyond how horribly graphic and violent may be to read, that style, is it uncomfortable? Does it bring discomfort because it has a potential of being looking into the future 50 or 100 years? Maybe not so weird after all.
No, this is more insight into somebody's psyche. That's why it was more or less uncomfortable.
But
I mean the society.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
but
from a
see,
societal standpoint,
that's
no, I don't see us
that's
going
the
that route.
thing is that, I mean, that is an idea that though it is taboo and though the way it portrayed it made it something that was unpleasant, unpalatable, inaccessible. Perhaps that's
Yes,
the interesting part, is that if we can make something that is taboo somewhat palatable, accessible, we can write about it, right?
yeah, true.
We should now here. So now she's going all the way back to the day she wasn't with us, Ray. She just said the magic words. We should be able to write about it because
Yes, we
we went
should.
round and round about this long before you were here, and here you are asking the same question. So hats off to you. But that's a really good, as writers, when we full circle this at the top of the hour, that is precisely what undergirds the entire discussion. Should we be able to do this without fear? Should we feel nothing? Should we feel all the human emotions, all that stuff? Sure. But should
Yeah.
we avoid it?
No.
And if and by that I mean we choose to, because that's we're predisposed temperamentally.
Right.
But from a writer's perspective, should we be fearful of our position as a writer if we go there, and should we purposely avoid it? No, that starts
Wait,
to
I think that one of the only ways to ensure that censorship does not become a thing is to constantly give people material that would make them want to censor
Push
it.
the envelope. Everything is an intellectual exercise. The reason we do it in the first place, where do our stories come from? We got an interesting idea and we want to see where it goes. It becomes an intellectual exercise.
the market will decide whether or
Yes.
not it's
Absolutely.
palatable, and that's not up to a government agency to tell us whether we should
You're
or
right.
shouldn't. Right. So the question is not it isn't direct. It's a rhetorical question, but that's really what
Well,
it gets back to.
And your fan base will
freedom of speech.
decide. If
Of
you're
course.
if you write
Yeah.
religious theology novels and you decide you're going to write an erotica novel, chances are you're going to lose your fan base. That's okay because you're expanding out to a different fan base. But that is the consequences of writing, of changing a novel set like that. You are going to offend the sensibilities of your core readership. That is something, as an author, we can do. Just be prepared to, face the consequences.
Yep. The answer to the question was, should we?
Yes,
You're
we
damn
always
right we
should. You're damn
Absolutely.
right we should. That's
the
the whole
degrees
point.
to which we do it is personal, but that's exactly the point. I shouldn't have to stop and think, oh, I could really make a couple of people really bad.
We are the
Oh, no, I
last
better not do
bastion
that.
of
You have to
absolute
go. Yeah.
unadulterated topics and unadulterated themes, things you don't have to cut, things you don't have to not show.
You're writing the children's books, stay away from it.
Yeah.
If you're writing any kind of acceptable mainstream fiction,
we don't have the FCC breathing down our necks.
No.
We can cover whatever topic we want to.
The only question that we should have to ask ourselves is, does it develop reader investment, character, or story? And if the answer is yes, then it's a personal question as to whether or not you want to engage in that.
Does it add something to the book?
That's right.
Yep, I agree.
But bottom line is, nobody should tell you what to write and what not to write. As an author, we can explore whatever topics, whatever scenes, whatever things that we wish to ourselves. The only consequences we have is what happens when we publish that. And as long as we're okay with that, have at it. Because you know what? Bottom line is, if you don't like it, you don't have to read it. That's what it comes down to.
The market
will decide. Correct.
As it does.
That makes me wonder. I've got to, whenever we're back to new topics, I'm going to refer to this episode because there's a really big question I want to ask. Both of you swine are way left of me. I'm on the right side.
I'm moderate.
No news
further
there.
left than I am. Yeah,
I wondered about, and it's not taboo, but I wonder about writing to an antithesis of a very popular story, a book most people know about that doesn't strike you the way it strikes most people, and you want to fire back.
So not taboo, but touchy.
Yep. Certainly societally, culturally, politically touchy. Yes.
I like that idea. That sounds like fun. That sounds like something that we will probably hit around the beginning of the year. I think that's when we're going to run out of do-overs.
Oh yeah, I like the sound of that. I do. I like the sound of that.
I'll save that in my little bucket. I got a bucket now.
The bucket? We all have a bucket. Buckets are great.
All right, all my batteries are charged. I want you people to know that. My batteries.
That's important. As long as your batteries are charged, that's all that matters.
All right.
Ray's battery and my battery tain't charged.
Nope.
Well, hold on.
Nope.
I want to fly my little tiny helicopter tonight. That's
goodbye to fun shape.
Yeah, I think we're good to go, people. You're right.
All right. So now I want to see if anybody responds to this, how badly we get pilloried. Hey, your color just went. Stop right there. Your color went perfect, Glacia. It
did. I don't know what happened, but her color went just it honed in, man.
Wonderful.
It's my computer went into night mode because it's 2 o'clock. Bye, Fache.
Bye, Fache.
It's 10 o'clock, so my screen went to night.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Should I have it on?